All right, so today we're learning about our principles of design. Our principles of design are essentially how an artist organizes the elements within a work of art. So just like our elements notes, we've got our term going across the first row, our definition on the second row, and our third row is our example drawings. So our elements, as I just kind of talked about, are the ingredients to our recipe. Okay? If you want to think of your principles to be like the recipe card, how you're going to mix the ingredients or how you're going to organize them so it tastes good, that's how we can kind of imagine our principles work. And if we apply that, just for a moment here, we use lines, which are an element, or shapes, which are elements, and we can create balance by making it look even with equal visual weight. Or we can create unity with our lines and our shapes, things like that. So that's kind of how you can piece those two terms together. So let's get into principles of design. We're just going to copy down what's listed here on this image into our example drawing again. So I'm just going to start with balance. And you're following along, right along with me, writing this out. Okay, the next one on that list is unity, variety, a proportion, emphasis, pattern, and movement. Okay, those are the ones we're going to talk about today. Okay, so the first one we're going to talk about is balance. Okay, there are actually three types of balance, and balance shows visual weight. Okay, so when we talk about balance, we say, hey, that picture looks a little off balance, or it looks balanced. So symmetrical balance, as this picture shows, is it is the same on both sides. It's kind of like if we were to take your hands. Generally, hands are symmetrical for the most part. It's like a mirror image, right? For asymmetrical, that means they're different on both sides, but they have similar likeness. So, for example, we've got like a full orange here and then slices of the orange there. Hey, we've got a big picture window, but then we've got like smaller square-like shapes or rectangles that kind of even out the area, okay? And then the last one is radial, okay? So this is based around a central point. So we've got this flower, but then it looks like a starburst bursting out. Okay, that's our radial symmetry. So I'm just going to make three separate sections here. And again, we're just going to put a couple of those in there. So we've got symmetrical. So I'm going to write symmetrical. If you don't know how to spell it, it's right up on the top. We've got asymmetrical. And we have radial. Okay, so symmetrical balance. I really like their example of the heart up there. That's a simple one. Okay, another one, if you do it really perfectly, it would be like a smiley face. Okay, so if you can get it almost exact copy down, split down the middle. Okay. Asymmetrical, again, that's different on both sides. So I like their example, but I'm going to use like circles in mine. So I have like a circle here, but if I add kind of a medium circle and maybe like two little circles down here in a composition, that would create some balance. Okay, another way that we can show it is sometimes for students, it makes sense to them to make like a little balance scale. And you've got a square on this side and maybe three little circles over here. That would represent asymmetrical. They still feel even, take up about the same amount of space, but they're different objects. And then the last one, radial. I mean, the sun is kind of a good example of this. So if we have like a little circle and you have basically kind of this spider look, okay, that's the concept of radial. Sometimes it can look swirly too. So something like this that actually has curly lines can create radial symmetry. It's almost like a starburst going out. Okay, on to proportion. So proportion shows size relationships between objects. So we have big, medium, small, taller, larger. That's kind of how we talk about it. So we're referring to the whole. So in this picture up here, it talks about this is like a realistic human face versus a distorted one. So we've got bigger eyes, bigger lips, like way bigger hair, okay, smaller shoulders, so it's really warped and distorted, right? Barbie is another good example of distortion, or talking about proportions compared to the real life human body. Right? The other things that we have in here is scale. So scale is related to size. Scale can be exaggerated to make something look really small or really big. So for example, they have an apple here in a city. Okay? We could also say like Godzilla in a city would be an example of scale. Okay? Dinosaurs maybe weren't that huge for that one. Some of them definitely were big, okay? But that would give you kind of an example there. So for us, with proportion, we're really just going to touch on how you can break it down. So you can have, talking about relationships of the whole, I could have a square here, or a rectangle. It's more of a rectangle, I guess. Ooh, sorry. And then I could say this rectangle or this building, maybe if I want to imagine it's a building, is larger than this smaller square or building. Okay. And then I could say this square is even smaller. Okay. So it's just talking about how you can discuss art in relationship to the whole. Okay. All right, unity. So for unity, we are joining parts together. Okay. And we have our whole and we have our parts. Unity can be created by grouping things together, making things the same color, grouping similar things together, and making things tints of the same color or in the same color family. Okay, so unity, you're just unifying your pieces together. So we're just going to break it into 4. I'm going to do 4 quick examples with that. So for grouping things together, Valentine's Day is coming up. So if I did like a bunch of hearts, okay, this would create a unified look. Okay, even if some are small, some are big, okay, if it's a similar object. Okay. If we made things the same color, so I'm going to just draw a checkerboard here. Okay, so if I draw a checkerboard, it's kind of like making brick, right? So, ooh. Okay, and now I could fill in every other, so I could fill in this one, and then this next one. Okay, and then I go in between. So filling in those same color values can create some unity. Okay, grouping similar things together, we've got the example of the paintbrush, crayons, markers. Hey, I guess I could do like different types of equipment. So maybe I do like a basketball. Okay. Maybe I do a baseball. Maybe I want to do a tennis ball for the last one. Okay. Similar things. Okay. Basketball, baseball, tennis ball. And then making things tints of the same color, I'm just going to use the same example that they had up there in terms of ice cream. So I could draw just a couple ice cream cones, drawing a V, adding my little scoop on the top. And then we're going to practice our pencil pressure here just a little bit. Okay, so I can make the first one really, really dark. Make the next one a little bit lighter, so less pencil pressure. And then the last one I could have either be white or really, really light. Okay. So unity, using the same color family. So I'm using like black or gray for my color family. Okay, on to our next backside. Okay, let's look at variety. Many of you are familiar with this term. You've got a variety of things in your room or in your house. So variety is just showing different types. So it can be shown in different ways. A variety of line, variety of color, variety of pattern. You've got shape and variety of objects. Another big word that we talk about here is diversity. Okay, it can be very similar to variety. So again, we're just gonna break this down a little bit into some of these examples that are up here. So we can have varieties of lines. Okay, I'm going to add some swirly curly cues in there. Okay, dashed and broken, we kind of already covered this. Okay. You can have a variety of patterns. So maybe I want to do a little block here, break it up into 4. Maybe I want to do polka dots over here. Maybe I want to do some hatching. Ooh, sorry, hatching over here. Sorry, you guys can't see that. Maybe I want to do some fuzzy lines here. Maybe for my last one, I want to do bigger polka dots. Okay. A variety of patterns. Okay. We can do different shapes. So if I do like a triangle over here, square, oval, okay. And then certainly a variety of objects could be our last one. So thinking about simple objects that we could draw, maybe I want to do like a paintbrush, okay, and a pencil. Ooh, my pencil got a little thick there, but okay. All right. On to movement. Okay. Movement just basically talks about showing motion. We see this a lot in animation. We don't maybe always see it in real life. There are some shows out there though, like we think about maybe The Matrix, that you kind of have that warped happening in some of those video clips, or you can see kind of that reverberation in a video. Okay, that shows motion. So the other way that we can think about it is it guides the viewer's eye through a work of art. So if your eyeball is moving around the work of art pretty consistently, that artwork probably has some good movement to it, right? So we can see up here, we've got movement from these little wispy lines, curvy lines going around the kite. We have movement of tones, so we can kind of almost feel this heaviness of the water droplets dropping down. Hey, for depth, we've got the shapes. The circle's getting smaller, so our eye jumps back or it either jumps forward. Okay, with wavy lines, that's a good indication of movement too. Okay, we've got diagonal lines like the liftoff, okay, and then again these curvy lines, they just move our eye throughout that cloud, right? Okay, so one of the best ones that I can think of is like ocean waves. You can decide how you want to draw them, okay? But you just kind of curl up and back. Those ocean waves are going to create movement. They're essentially moving your eye this way, right? Another one would be a spiral, can create movement. And then I think about, I'm going to draw a little emoji here, okay? Like a scared one. Okay. And then if he's like chattering his teeth a little bit, big old eyebrows, okay? And he's got these like wiggly lines next to him. We might imagine that he's like shivering, okay? That's my ridiculous shiver motion, okay? You can draw your emoji how you want, but the idea is just to give that impression of shakiness, right? Okay, we've got 2 left, so we're on to emphasis now. We're catching attention. So the big one here would be contrast. We're going to talk about that a lot in this class. So if you want to create emphasis, you can use contrast or stressing differences between elements. I put that as just an extra term here. Okay, emphasis being catching attention or accenting an area of importance. Okay, you can also do focus. So in photography, if you're zooming in on an area that you want people to look at but blurring out the background, okay, that can create emphasis. Changing the color, making it big and bold, adding detail versus blurrier on the background. Okay, sometimes even repetition can create emphasis. Okay, when you guys see those big signs out there that are big and bold, that can create some emphasis, and also isolation. Okay, so when we look at this and we talk maybe about balance, okay, this is asymmetrical balance that helps us create emphasis. Okay. So just a couple examples there. I do like kind of their contrast, but I'm going to just show you when we do contrast, one of the biggest ones that students remember, okay, is your yin yang. Okay. Oh. So that would be one example, and then I can fill it in, right? little spot over there. So stressing differences there. I like this idea of emphasizing using colors. So if I make kind of some planets here and then a big circle, okay, I can then fill in the large one. So that talks about size and color there. Okay, and then the last one that I'm going to do is isolation. So again, I kind of like this idea of bubbles. Okay, so if I do like a larger bubble here, okay, some smaller ones. Okay, but then I stick one just off to the side here. Okay, that's going to create some emphasis on this one. Okay, our last one is pattern. So we're repeating shapes, colors, lines, or objects. Okay, so our pattern, the best way to decipher the difference between repetition, pattern, and rhythm is pattern is repeating two, oh geez, that is not correct. Okay, well, I guess that's how we're gonna have it, but repeating two or more things in the same way. Okay, I like to think of it as it's really, really strict. Okay, so if we're gonna have flower, leaf, we can't just randomly throw in a triangle there because that then would make it more like repetition. Okay, repetition is a single shape, color, line, or object that is repeated. Okay, so we've got straight lines, wavy lines, flowers, and then the last one is rhythm. So we just have two or more things that are repeated in different ways. Okay, so there's just a little bit of difference between each one of those that'll help us decipher them, right? So right up at the top here, I'm just going to do repetition of some circles. Okay, that's my repetition. Ooh, there we go. Okay, for my pattern, I may choose to do square, triangle, circle, square, triangle, circle. There's my pattern. And for rhythm, okay, I may choose to just spread those around. So maybe I got a square here, triangle over here, circle up top, maybe another square close by, triangle over there. Okay, you kind of just spread them out. Okay, and that completes our principles of design. Any questions for me or repeats?